blasting,
hurricanes,
3D models.
robots. All of this and more in Drydock Update number 2 for the USS KIDD. But first, if you enjoy this video, take aim and destroy that like button, and then target subscribe.
Sharing is caring, so share with someone you think that would enjoy it too. We've gained a lot of new subscribers since April. Welcome aboard, and thanks for joining us. You may want to check out other Drydock and project updates in our Drydock playlist. If you've been following along on our channel, then you know that KIDD entered Drydock on August 13th. Blasting on the ship's hull from main deck down to the keel began not long afterward. As she was brought down to bare metal, the yard immediately followed behind, applying a zinc coating. This will prevent surface corrosion while hull repairs are underway until the final paint coatings can be applied. Blasting and zinking also occurred with the fantail equipment stored on the dry dock floor. Almost as soon as work got started, everything had to shut down again for storm prep as Hurricane Francine came ashore on Wednesday, September 11th in Terrebonne Parish, where Houma and ThomaSea shipyard are located. The Category 2 storm had sustained winds of 100 miles per hour and a storm surge greater than 4 feet. Power was lost by many in the area for several days. KIDD, however, came through the storm fine with no damage beyond the loss of an aging canvas awning over our quarterdeck. The shipyard was on cleanup duty the very next day and back in operation by Friday.
As blasting was moving down the length of the hull, staff members Tim Nesmith and Nathan Bergeron joined shipyard personnel in conducting a thorough interior structural survey. This was done from main deck to keel and from bow to stern, and included living and workspaces, fuel oil and ballast tanks, ammunition magazines, chain locker, voids, crawl spaces, cofferdams, stuffing box compartments, also known as shaft alleys, and down below the boilers and condensers. Every single space that exists inside KIDD's hull was inspected. As you can see, it made for some tight fits and squeezes in some places, as well as scraped elbows. The hard hats were well used and appreciated. Once an area was finished with blasting and zinking, Glad Solutions was brought in to conduct a side scan of the hull. These little scanners moved a ½ inch at a time down the hull using ultrasound to get thickness readings on the metal. Gecko Robotics followed, conducting a second side scan for a comparison, with the robots crawling across the hull for free, just for the experience. With the robots scanning during the daytime, blasting had to shift to nighttime operations since the vibrations caused would interfere with the scan readings. But it allowed for these great nighttime photos of the blasting from September 17th during the combination full moon, harvest moon, supermoon event, while Tim was living in the shipyard for the week, helping with the interior structural survey.
Let's take a moment to give a big round of applause and a huge amount of thanks to naval researcher, illustrator, and author Stefan Jerminski of Poland. He recently published a new book on the KIDD through Osprey Publishing earlier this year, containing numerous 3D renderings of the ship, complete with line drawings and prints. As the majority of the museum's collection of blueprints are not scanned digitally yet, Stefan was gracious enough to allow ThomaSea access to his digitized prints and 3D models for the purpose of mapping the results of the side scan and interior structural surveys. His generosity paid off greatly in conservation of effort, and we are very grateful to have such a friend. The steward's berthing backfitting is proceeding well. The deck pass-throughs for the ladders have been realigned and cut. The lower ladder well and adjoining divider wall has been fabricated and put into place along with the locker door. All of it looks fabulous. On the main deck level, the watertight hatch has been moved into its new position and is being welded. The portion of the deckhouse's outer bulkhead where the dumbwaiter hatch used to be has now been reconfigured and will soon be sealed up after the double breakwater is disassembled and backfitted. The new sewage tank has arrived at the yard. For those just joining us, KIDD and ships of her era never had a sewage treatment plant in their original design. Those requirements did not come about until 1973, and KIDD was decommissioned for the final time in 1964. Before that, everything went right out the side of the ship and into the ocean. The design of the tank that the museum installed in 1982 was detrimental to the structural integrity of the ship, so we've had it removed. The new tank is smaller and more accessible. As you can see here, the access point has been cut in the hull and the supports are being fabricated prior to lifting the tank into position. If you follow our social media, you'll remember when we painted the starboard side of the hull in May of 2023. At that time, we discovered a substantial rust bloom on the transom at the ship's nameplate. Closer examination and excavation revealed a penetration clear through the hull into the old smoke generator compartment, located centerline off of the shipfitter shop. The bloom had not been visible beneath the bulkhead insulation from the interior, and had only become visible on the exterior as a small rust stain starting in 2018. The naval inspection teams that visited annually found no issues with it that year before their inspections were discontinued the following year in 2019. The current theory is that it resulted from a stress fracture at some point. You can see here the outline of new plating that was installed portside in 1983 after the stern suffered a collision from the MV Betty Smith. It is possible that the collision caused more extensive damage than was thought at the time, with microfractures extending over to the starboard side. Those fractures may have eventually been exposed to moisture from condensation over the years that finally culminated in the rust bloom erupting from beneath the paint. ThomaSea has replaced the affected steel and is completing welding in that area. New letters for the nameplate were acquired back in the spring from WWII with historic ship preservation consultants and USS Slater. Barry collaborated with welding instructor and Navy veteran Kent Chase of Hudson Valley Community College. Using images of prints obtained from volunteer Ed Zakowski, Barry worked up the proper dimensions on his CAD program, which were then fed into Kent's CNC plasma cutter. And voila, beautifully crafted steel letters to top off the work. Yet another example of #OneFleet. Deck replacement on the Fantail is nearing completion, with final testing of welds taking place. So, what do you do when the shipyard says, we can take it further forward to the aft K-guns and get rid of all that compromised galvanized steel for you? Can you clear out underneath so that nothing gets damaged? Well, if you're smart, you do it. All of the bunks in enlisted berthing C203L and C204L were labeled in advance on October 24th and 25th so that they can be put right back exactly into place when the ship returns home. On October 28th, a team of 6 staff and volunteers pulled 120 bunk frames out of the berthing spaces. We also pulled 70 5-inch 38 caliber projectiles with no explosive potential, and 40 to 50 powder tanks, again, no explosive potential, from Mount 55's ammunition handling room, located inside C204L. From start to finish, including travel time, it was a 16-hour day, moving equipment up to the main deck, loading it into an equipment cage, craning that over to shore, and transferring from the cage to the truck. The whole team was spent after that upper body workout. But all of the cancerous metal on the main deck back aft will now be completely eradicated. In preparation for blasting of the superstructure, we took to the skies in a man lift and got detailed measurements of our bridge wing scoreboards. The scoreboards will be replicated once final painting has been completed. For those not familiar with the emblems on the scoreboards, they represent the number of kills that kids scored in World War II in terms of gun emplacements, also known as shore batteries, naval mines, bomber aircraft, and fighter aircraft. The one black stripe with the skull and crossbones denotes the kamikaze aircraft that struck Kidd on April 11, 1945. Ironically, one of those fighter kills occurred off of Guam without a single shot being fired by Kidd. One item that should be on the scoreboard, but that Kidd never received credit for, was a Japanese tank. But we'll elaborate on those in a separate video later on. Stay tuned. We'll wrap up this update with a few images of blasting and zinking, beginning to start on the main deck at the bow.
There's still a need for donations. Help us make Kidd's visit to the shipyard better than the bare minimum. Visit USSKIDD.com today to donate and support this drydocking effort.
Remember also, like, share, and subscribe.
Doing so helps other people discover our channel and support our mission.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.